Welcome to Femme Fantasy, where transformation, elegance, and self-discovery come to life. I never imagined the quiet hum of the school locker room could one day drown out the sound of my heartbeat, yet that afternoon it seemed like every creak of the metal doors knew my secret. After practice, when most of the guys had already shuffled out toward the parking lot, I lingered behind, pretending to rummage through my gym bag. I knew exactly what I was searching for, my small zip-up pouch hidden under a tangle of sweatshirts. It was an ordinary pouch to anyone else, but to me, it was a world I wasn't sure belonged to me yet. Inside it were delicate pieces of lace I'd collected over the past year, a scrap of satin here, a ribboned bralette there, colors that made me feel like a softer version of myself. I told myself I would just look at them for a moment, feel that small rush of comfort that always washed over me. The locker room smelled like detergent and old rubber soles. I kept glancing toward the exit, nervous, waiting for the click of the door that meant I was finally alone. But as I eased the pouch open, someone stepped into the room. I froze. It was my boyfriend, Nathan, his hair still damp from the shower, eyes bright and warm as always. He smiled at me, that casual, open smile of his, and I felt my pulse sprint. He was the only person who ever made me feel safe, but he didn't know about this side of me. He thought I was just his dependable, slightly awkward boyfriend, someone who stayed out of trouble. Someone ordinary. Someone who wasn't afraid of the reflection in the mirror. "Hey," he said, drawing out the word like he expected me to laugh or reply right away. But I couldn't. The pouch was halfway open. Satin peeked out like a confession. He noticed. His smile faltered, just slightly, the corners dipping as he leaned closer. "What's that?" he asked, his voice still gentle, but now threaded with curiosity. My throat went dry. I wanted to say it was nothing, shove everything back in the bag, zip it shut. But his hand moved faster than my thoughts. He reached down and lifted the pouch, and before I could stop him, the items spilled across the floor, soft fabrics unfolding, ribbons catching on the edge of the bench. The colors looked almost unreal against the cold tile, like they'd fallen from a different world entirely. He stared, not at me, but at them. His expression was unreadable. Surprise, maybe. Confusion. For a moment, everything was silent except the steady drip from the shower room. I felt heat rise in my chest, a tightness that made it hard to breathe. I thought about running or laughing it off as a joke, but nothing came. Nathan crouched and picked up the bralette, turning it over in his hands like it was a fragile relic. "These are yours?" he asked, eyes finally lifting to meet mine. I nodded, barely. The air felt thick. I tried to explain how wearing these things made me feel calm, how I didn't fully understand it myself, how it wasn't about anything dangerous or thrilling. I just wanted to feel right. But my words came out tangled, nervous, rushed. He listened. He didn't interrupt. His eyes softened, though he still looked like he was trying to piece together a puzzle without knowing what the final picture should be. After a long moment, he stood and placed the bralette back on the bench. "I wish you'd told me," he said quietly. Those words sank into me deeper than I expected. Not angry, not judgmental, just sad. I didn't know which hurt more, that he'd found out like this, or that I'd kept it from him for so long. I wanted to explain why I hid it, how fear was always pressing against my ribs, how I didn't want to lose the one person who made me feel seen in every other way. But the words stuck. Nathan rested a hand on my shoulder, warm and steady. "This doesn't change how I feel about you," he said. "But tell me, what does all this mean to you?" I opened my mouth. Part of me wanted to spill everything, to tell him how I sometimes imagine myself with softer curves, longer hair, a voice that matched the way my heart felt. But the other part, the louder part, was terrified. I swallowed, took a slow breath, and told him the truth I could manage, that wearing those clothes made me feel like a version of myself I couldn't describe yet. His hand tightened on my shoulder, a small gesture of reassurance. "Okay," he murmured. "We'll figure this out." In that quiet, I felt something shift. A subtle click inside me, like gears aligning. I didn't know exactly where this path would lead, but maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't have to walk it alone. Nathan helped me gather the scattered pieces of fabric, placing each one back into the pouch, as though they were more fragile than glass. His movements were calm, careful, not pitying, not disgusted, just thoughtful. That alone made my breath catch. I had imagined, in every nightmare version of this moment, that someone would mock me or pull away. Instead, he held the pouch like it contained a secret worth protecting. We walked out of the locker room together, slow, quiet strides through the hallway where fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone somehow knew, that every echo of our footsteps was broadcasting my secret. Nathan must have sensed my unease, because he slipped his hand into mine, giving a small squeeze. My chest fluttered. When we reached his car, he didn't start the engine right away. He sat there with his hands resting on the steering wheel, looking straight ahead. I kept my gaze down, tracing lines on my jeans. I wanted to say something, anything, but words felt like they were scattered somewhere far out of reach. He finally broke the silence. "You don't have to explain everything right now," he said softly. "But I want to understand. I want to help you feel okay." I swallowed, feeling a tremor ripple through me. The pouch sat between us like a quiet, glowing heart. I managed to whisper, "I didn't mean to hide it from you. I wasn't ready to understand it myself." He nodded, like he understood without needing more explanation. "It's scary," he said, "figuring out who you are. But I'm here. You're not alone." Something warm bloomed in my chest, mixing with the lingering fear. I wasn't sure what he saw when he looked at me. Someone strong, confused, lost? Maybe all three. But he kept holding my hand as if he didn't need a perfect answer. We drove back to my house. The sun was dipping below the neighborhood rooftops, washing everything in that blue-orange glow that felt like both an ending and a beginning. Inside, I tucked the pouch into my drawer, though now it felt less like a secret and more like something I could choose to share. Over dinner, everything felt strangely normal. My parents chatted about their day, the clinking of forks filling spaces I didn't know how to speak into. Nathan stayed, laughing at their jokes, as though nothing in our world had shifted. But I could feel it, something had changed. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but quietly, underneath everything, like a new melody threading into a familiar song. Afterward, when we were alone in my room, Nathan sat on the floor while I sat on the edge of the bed. It felt easier to talk without looking at him directly. I told him how it began, how I noticed myself staring at certain fabrics in stores, drawn to the texture, the colors. How I bought my first piece on impulse, my heart pounding the whole time. How wearing it made me feel peaceful, like I was stepping into a dream version of myself I recognized, but didn't yet know. He listened without interrupting, shifting only to sit closer. "Do you ever feel like you want to be someone else?" he asked gently. I hesitated. The truth was complicated. "Not someone else," I said. "Just more me. Someone I've always felt inside, but can't bring out." Hearing myself say it out loud made my throat tighten. It felt terrifyingly real. Nathan nodded slowly. "I think that makes sense," he murmured. "I'm not saying I understand everything, but I'm here to try." The room fell quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Would you ever want to wear those clothes outside? Like, not just alone?" My breath caught in my chest. I'd barely imagined such a thing, being seen, truly seen, in a way that matched that inner softness. The idea both thrilled and terrified me. "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe. One day." Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled flyer from school. "There's a winter fair this weekend," he said, voice calm. "Not too many people go. If you ever wanted to try even just a small part of it, I'd go with you." My heart hammered. The thought of stepping into a public space wearing even a hint of that hidden self felt overwhelming. But Nathan's presence made the impossible feel almost manageable. "I'll think about it," I whispered. He smiled and leaned back against the wall, stretching his legs. "Whatever pace you need. I'm not going anywhere." And somehow, sitting in the soft glow of my bedside lamp, the world didn't feel so frightening anymore. The next morning, I woke with a heaviness in my chest, not painful, just full. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment in the locker room, the way the satin slipped across the tile, Nathan's calm voice threading through my fear. It felt unreal, as though I had dreamed the entire thing, except the pouch tucked safely in my drawer was proof enough that everything had changed. When I came downstairs, my mother was humming by the sink, the sunlight streaking through the kitchen blinds and landing across the table. I could smell toast, eggs, coffee. Everything looked ordinary. But I felt different, like something deep beneath my ribs had begun shifting. Nathan's words from the night before lingered, steady and gentle. "We'll figure this out." At school, I moved through the hallways with my head low, scanning faces, half expecting someone to whisper about what happened in the locker room. But no one knew. This secret, now heavier yet somehow lighter, stayed tucked inside me. Only Nathan's occasional glances, reassuring, steady, reminded me of the truth we now shared. After classes, we met by the bleachers. The cold air nipped at our hands. He asked how I was feeling, and though part of me wanted to pretend everything was fine, something in his expression made honesty feel safe. "Nervous," I admitted, "but relieved too." He nodded. "That sounds real." He paused, searching my face. "Did you think about the fair?" I had. All day, the idea had danced through my mind, bright and frightening. "I'm not sure what I'd even wear," I whispered. Nathan smiled, that warm half-laugh of his. "We can figure that out. You don't have to go dressed head to toe. Just something small. Something that makes you feel right." His voice made the impossible feel achievable. We walked home together, talking about nothing and everything, homework, a new movie coming out, his sister's ongoing war with her broken hairdryer. Normal things. But beneath our conversation, a new thread stretched, quiet and pulsing, the possibility of change. Later, alone in my room, I opened the drawer and lifted the pouch. I sat cross-legged on the floor, fingers brushing the fabrics, each one soft and familiar. I tried to imagine wearing any of them beyond these walls, beyond stolen moments. The thought sent my pulse racing. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye. I studied my face, my posture. I wondered who I might be if I let that hidden version of myself step forward. A memory surfaced, years ago, when I was maybe 10, slipping into one of my cousin's dresses at a family gathering. The adults were outside, and I twirled in the living room, laughing quietly at the way the skirt flared. I'd felt light, uncontainable, free. But someone walked in, a relative, and the startled expression on their face had burned itself into me. I'd scrambled out of the dress, heart pounding, cheeks hot. That night I promised myself I'd never let that version of me be seen again. But now, sitting here, that promise felt less like protection and more like a cage I'd built around myself. Nathan texted, "Just checking in. How are you doing?" I stared at the screen, then typed, trying to be brave. A moment later, "You are. Even thinking about this is brave." I clutched the phone, a small warmth blooming in my chest. I didn't feel brave. I felt confused, vulnerable, scared. But maybe bravery wasn't feeling unafraid. Maybe it was moving forward despite the fear. That night, I barely slept. Thoughts twisted and tangled, images of the fair looping endlessly, imagined eyes staring, whispered voices. But beside those fears, a softer image flickered, Nathan's hand in mine, steady. The next afternoon, he came over after his shift at the cafe. He carried a small shopping bag. I watched curiously as he placed it on my bed. His eyes sparkled with nervous excitement. "I thought maybe this could help," he said. Inside the bag was a simple accessory, a soft, pale scarf with tiny embroidered stars. Not flashy, not bold, but delicate and beautiful, like a secret whispered only to those who listen closely. My throat tightened. "It's perfect," I murmured. He shrugged lightly, cheeks tinged pink. "Just thought it might be a small step. Something comfortable." I held the scarf to my chest, surprised at how emotional I felt. It wasn't just an object, it was permission. A gentle door opening. "Try it on," he encouraged. Hands trembling, I draped the scarf around my neck. The fabric settled lightly, and suddenly I felt seen in a way that wasn't frightening, like a mirror had finally aligned correctly. Nathan's expression softened, his smile warm. "That looks like you," he said quietly. The words echoed in my heart. "That looks like you." I caught my reflection in the mirror. Something inside me fluttered. It was still me, same face, same body. But the scarf highlighted a softness I'd always felt, a gentleness I'd hidden so carefully. I reached up, touched the fabric, and allowed myself to breathe. Nathan stepped behind me, meeting my gaze in the mirror. "You don't have to rush anything," he said. "Just take this one moment at a time." I nodded. A strange strength settled in my chest. Maybe I was ready for that small step. Not a leap, just a step. We spent the evening talking quietly, sharing pieces of our lives we'd never discussed before. Fears, hopes, small dreams we thought were too fragile to say aloud. I told him how I sometimes imagine myself with longer hair, painted nails. He shared how he'd struggled with expectations of masculinity, how he never fit the mold people imagined for him. We laughed about our shared awkwardness, our quiet rebellion. At some point, I realized I was still wearing the scarf. It felt natural. Before he left, he turned at the door, eyes gentle. "You're not alone," he repeated. As the door clicked shut behind him, I stood there in the quiet house, fingers brushing the embroidered stars. The world felt slightly different, still scary, still uncertain, but now threaded with possibility. Saturday arrived sooner than I expected. I woke early, the pale morning light filtering through my curtains, painting soft rectangles across my floor. The scarf with embroidered stars lay draped over my chair, like it had been waiting all night too. Just looking at it steadied me a little, though my stomach still fluttered with anxious knots. The winter fair was later that afternoon, and while the idea of going still made my pulse race, a small part of me was curious, hopeful, even. I spent the morning pacing my room, trying to quiet my thoughts. I kept returning to the mirror, holding the scarf around my neck, watching the way the fabric softened the shape of my shoulders. I tried pairing it with different jackets, different shirts. Nothing dramatic, just little changes. Each time, I felt that same spark, a quiet recognition that made my breath catch. Eventually, I settled on a simple outfit, a light sweater, dark jeans, and the scarf wrapped just loosely enough that it moved when I did. Nathan texted around noon. "I'll pick you up in an hour. You okay?" I stared at the message, then replied, "Nervous. But okay." His answer came quickly. "Nervous is okay. We're in this together." I clutched the phone and exhaled, feeling a warmth bloom behind my ribs. When the doorbell finally rang, my heart jumped. I slipped downstairs, trying to seem casual, though I could feel my parents' eyes lingering on me. My mom commented softly on the scarf, said it was pretty. She didn't question it. Somehow, that tiny gesture felt huge. Nathan greeted me with his usual easy grin. His eyes flicked to the scarf, and he nodded, impressed. "You look great," he whispered. Those simple words settled into me like a calming tide. The drive to the fair was quiet but comfortable. I kept watching the landscape blur past, the bare trees lined with frost, kids bundled up on sidewalks, pale skies stretching overhead. Nathan hummed along to a song on the radio, and I focused on the rhythm, letting it ground me. The fair was smaller than I imagined, a cluster of tents, food stalls, twinkling lights strung across walkways. Families wandered between booths, laughter drifting with the scent of caramel and spices. It felt surprisingly welcoming, casual, gentle. As we stepped out of the car, the cold air bit at my cheeks, but the scarf kept me warm. Nathan offered his hand discreetly, and I took it, grateful for the anchor. We wandered between stalls, stopping occasionally to admire handmade crafts or winter-themed trinkets. No one stared. No one whispered. The world kept moving, unaware of the storm inside me. That alone felt like a miracle. At one booth, an older woman selling knitted ornaments complimented my scarf. "Lovely choice," she said with a warm smile. My cheeks flushed. I managed a small thank you. Nathan squeezed my hand. "See," he murmured as we walked away. "You're doing amazing." We found a quiet spot near a row of small, glowing lanterns. Nathan handed me a cup of hot chocolate. The warmth seeped into my fingers. For a long moment, we just stood together, breathing in the crisp air, listening to the soft murmur of the fair around us. "How do you feel?" Nathan asked. I considered the question. My heart still beat quickly, and I felt exposed, but not in a dangerous way. More like I'd cracked open a window into a room that had always been locked. Scared, I admitted. But good. Like I'm finally letting a piece of me breathe. Nathan smiled. "I'm proud of you." Those words hit me harder than I expected. I blinked against the stinging in my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. "For this. For everything." He shook his head lightly. "You're the one being brave." We walked a little more, talking about nothing important, favorite seasons, silly memories from childhood. Each step felt easier, the scarf now feeling less like a daring choice and more like a part of me. But then everything shifted. We were near the entrance of the fair when I heard a familiar voice. I froze. It was Daniel, one of the guys from the locker room, someone loud and brash, always seeking attention. He stood with a couple of friends, laughing. My breath caught in my throat. He noticed us almost immediately. His eyes landed on me, traveling from my face to the scarf. I could see the confusion flicker, then something sharper. Well, he said loudly, stepping closer. "Didn't expect to see you dressed like that." Nathan stiffened beside me. I clutched the edge of my sleeve, feeling my pulse thundering. "Just leave it," Nathan said evenly. But Daniel wasn't interested in letting anything go. He circled us, eyeing the scarf like it was a target. "Didn't know you were into this kind of thing." His voice dripped with mockery. Heat flared in my cheeks. I wanted to shrink, disappear. My voice was trapped somewhere deep in my chest. Nathan stepped forward slightly, placing himself between us. "Back off," he said, voice low but steady. Daniel laughed. "Relax, man. Just asking questions." He looked at me again, tilting his head. "Didn't peg you for the delicate type." My fingers trembled. I felt every gaze like a weight. Nathan's jaw tightened. I said back off. Something in his tone must have landed, because Daniel raised his hands in mock surrender and stepped away. But his parting words lingered. "Guess we don't really know people, huh?" He walked away, leaving a cold silence in his wake. My body felt hollow, like all the warmth had drained out of me. Nathan turned to me immediately. "Hey, you're okay." "He's just an idiot." I stared down, unable to speak. The scarf suddenly felt too bright, too visible. I wanted to rip it off and run. Nathan gently touched my arm. "Listen, you did nothing wrong. Nothing." I swallowed hard, blinking back the burn in my eyes. "I shouldn't have come," I whispered. "That's not true," he said firmly. "You were brave just by showing up. I'm proud of you. Don't let him take that away." For a moment, we stood in silence, breath visible in the cold air. Slowly, I let myself breathe, noticing the scarf still warm against my skin. I hadn't taken it off. That meant something. After a while, Nathan guided us toward the car. The fair lights blurred behind us as we walked. I felt shaken, but not broken. Something inside me still glowed, a quiet light, flickering but alive. In the car, I stared out the window at the passing winter streets. Nathan reached over, lacing his fingers with mine. "One step at a time," he reminded me. I nodded, whispering, "One step." Though fear lingered, something stronger rose beside it. Determination. A sense that, even after being shaken, I hadn't fallen. Not completely. As we pulled into my driveway, I caught my reflection in the window, the scarf resting gently across my shoulders. I looked like me. Not the me I thought I had to be, but a version I was just beginning to understand. And that version deserved to keep going. The weekend slipped into a quiet Sunday, and though the winter fair incident replayed in my mind like a looping scene, I woke with a strange calm. The fear was still there, but it no longer felt like a wall, more like a doorway I'd already stepped through. My scarf lay folded atop my dresser, and the sight of it didn't make my stomach twist this time. Instead, it reminded me that I had taken a risk and survived. Nathan texted good morning and asked if I wanted to meet at the park near school. I hesitated, unsure if I was ready to face the outside world again so soon. But then I remembered something he'd said, one step at a time. So I wrapped the scarf around my neck, pulled on a jacket, and walked out the door. The sky was pale, the air crisp, but the quiet of the neighborhood soothed me. When I reached the park, Nathan was leaning against a bench, hands tucked into his coat pockets. He smiled wide when he saw me, his gaze settling on the scarf with gentle pride.
"Hey," he said.
"Hey," I whispered. We sat together, watching a few families wander along the paths. The bare trees rattled softly in the breeze. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "How are you feeling today?" he asked. I exhaled, watching my breath cloud the air. "Still shaken," I admitted. "But I'm glad I went." Nathan nodded slowly. "You stood your ground. You didn't hide. That's huge." I swallowed. I was terrified. "You moved through it anyway," he said. "That's what matters." Silence stretched again, but it felt calmer this time. I told him how I'd spent half the night questioning myself, wondering if the scarf meant anything, if the fair meant anything, if I was just confused and reaching for something I didn't understand. Nathan listened carefully, then said, "It's okay not to have all the answers. Identity isn't a switch. It's a path." His words washed over me, settling somewhere deep. I rested my hands on my knees, fingers fidgeting. Finally, I spoke the thought that had been stirring in me since yesterday. Sometimes, I think about what it would be like to live more openly, to be seen the way I feel inside. More gentle, more soft, more. I paused, searching, like a girl. My voice trembled. The truth felt delicate, but solid. Nathan's expression softened. "Thank you for trusting me with that." "I've never said it out loud," I whispered. "You don't need a label today," he said. "You just deserve space to explore." A quiet warmth unfurled in me. Relief. Maybe that he hadn't pulled away or insisted on answers. We spent nearly an hour wandering the park, talking about small things. Each step felt like an exhale. When we reached the entrance, he paused, turning to me. "You said once that wearing those clothes made you feel more like yourself." I nodded. "Maybe," he hesitated, then continued. "Maybe we could try something small again. At home. Somewhere safe. If you want." I stared at him, heart thumping. The idea felt both frightening and comforting. But the way he said it, simple, patient, made it easier to breathe. "Okay," I said quietly. "I'd like that." That afternoon, at my house, we sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor. I opened the familiar drawer, fingertips brushing over lace and satin. Nathan watched, not with curiosity, but with respect. I chose a soft, pastel piece, lightweight, gentle. My hands trembled, but not from shame. I slipped it on under my sweater, feeling the subtle shift against my skin. The sensation was comforting, like I'd put on a piece of my inner self. Nathan looked at me, eyes kind, and said only, "You look comfortable." And for the first time, I did. We talked quietly, exploring what this meant, how I felt when I wore these things, what I imagined for myself, what scared me most. I confessed my fear of being seen as a joke, of never being understood. Nathan admitted he, too, was afraid, not of me changing, but of the world hurting me for it. "I don't want anything to take away who you are," he said. "Who you're becoming." His words held me like a hand on my back. As the afternoon faded into evening, I realized something had shifted again. I wasn't just reacting anymore, I was choosing. The world outside might still be sharp and uncertain, but I could claim pieces of myself, small and steady. Before Nathan left, he hugged me. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "I'm here." His voice trembled just slightly, like this mattered to him as much as it did to me. After he left, I stood in front of the mirror again. My reflection was still familiar, same face, same eyes, but something inside felt newly aligned. I didn't have every answer. I didn't know exactly where this path would lead, but I could feel it opening beneath my feet, a thread guiding me forward. For the first time, the uncertainty didn't scare me. It felt like possibility. Monday arrived with a cool, pale stillness. I walked to school alone, hands tucked into my pockets, the familiar weight of the scarf folded safely inside my backpack. I hadn't decided whether I would wear it that day. The memory of Daniel's sneer still clung to me. But beneath that anxiety was something steadier, like a soft voice whispering that I had earned my right to exist, just as I was, and just as I was becoming. The hallways buzzed with the usual energy. Lockers clanged open, voices rose and fell. Nathan found me near the gym doors, offering a quiet smile before gently nudging my shoulder. "Ready?" he asked. "Trying to be," I whispered. Together, we walked inside. The locker room felt colder, sharper somehow, though the fluorescent lights hummed the same as always. A few guys nodded in greeting, not paying extra attention. I exhaled slowly. Maybe the world didn't tilt as dramatically as I feared. But then I saw Daniel. He leaned against a row of lockers, surrounded by two friends. His eyes locked on me instantly. I felt my breath catch, but this time I didn't look away. Nathan stepped a little closer to me. "Well, if it isn't the star of the winter fair," Daniel said, pushing off the locker with a smirk. One of his friends chuckled quietly. "Nice scarf," Daniel added. "Got it with your boyfriend?" My cheeks flushed, but I held my ground. Nathan spoke before I could form a reply. "Leave it alone." Daniel raised a brow, his smirk widening. "Just saying. Didn't think he had that style." He shrugged. "Not that it's bad. Just surprising." His voice had changed, still edged with sarcasm, but underneath it, I caught a flicker of uncertainty. Like he didn't quite know what to make of me now. "You don't have to understand it," I said quietly, not sure where the words came from. "It's just part of who I am." Daniel blinked, thrown for a moment. His smirk faltered. The silence stretched. Then, with a scoff, he muttered, "Whatever," and walked off with his friends. Nathan let out a breath. "You are incredible," he whispered. I didn't feel incredible. My hands trembled slightly, but something inside me felt stronger than before, like a thread of steel had woven itself through my chest. As classes passed, I found myself replaying the moment, realizing that I hadn't hidden, hadn't shrunk. I had spoken, and nothing had shattered. At lunch, I found myself reaching into my backpack, fingers brushing the scarf. After a pause, I wrapped it around my neck. A few heads turned, but only briefly. Most people went back to their conversations. Nathan smiled when he saw it, a quiet pride shining in his eyes. In history class, the teacher paused mid-lecture, glanced at me, and simply nodded, like she recognized me, truly, and accepted what she saw. The knot in my chest loosened. After school, Nathan and I walked to the park again. The world was colder now, frost gathering on the grass, but I felt warm. The scarf caught the wind softly, drifting like a small flag of something I couldn't yet name. "I'm proud of you," Nathan said as we sat on the same bench from yesterday. I looked down at my hands. "It still scares me," I admitted. "Being yourself is scary," he said. "It's also worth it." We sat there for a long while, watching a couple jog by, a dog chasing a tennis ball with single-minded joy. Life moved around us, unbothered by my quiet transformation. Eventually, Nathan turned to me. "Where do you want to go from here?" I thought for a long time. The future felt wide and foggy, but instead of feeling lost, I felt curious. I didn't know what steps would come next, clothes, maybe, conversations with family, maybe even new ways of understanding myself beyond what I'd allowed. But I didn't need to define it all now. "I want to keep exploring," I said. "I want to learn who I am. I want to take it slow, but keep moving." Nathan nodded. "Then we'll do that. Together." A soft wind swept across the park, lifting my hair. I felt something mirror that movement inside me, an easing, a gentle opening. As we walked home, I noticed my reflection in a shop window. The scarf framed my face like it had been made for me. And for the first time, I saw not just who I was scared, unsure, but who I could be. Someone soft, someone strong, someone whole. When we reached my house, Nathan squeezed my hand. "No matter what," he said, "I'm with you."
His voice was steady, certain.
I felt my chest glow with the warmth of something new. Hope, maybe, or recognition. I wasn't alone on this path. I wasn't hiding in locker rooms or behind drawers anymore. I was stepping forward, even if only by inches. Inside, I went to my room, placing the scarf gently on my bed. I opened the drawer beneath, fingertips skating across satin and lace. Instead of shame, I felt gratitude for every version of myself that brought me to this moment. For the child twirling secretly in borrowed dresses. For the teenager terrified in the locker room. For the person sitting here now, finally breathing. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Maybe confusion, maybe joy, maybe both. But that was okay. Because the story wasn't over. It was just beginning. And as I stood at the mirror, seeing myself reflected back with new clarity, I whispered a truth I'd never allowed myself to say aloud. I am becoming myself. And that was enough.